Sicotte, executive editor of Brewer. Welcome to the Brewer and Cider Business Podcast. Make sure you're liking and subscribing on YouTube and on Spotify. We're here weekly, and of course, we're available 24 hours a day at brewermag.com. We are also sponsored by Square and Keg Logistics. Running a restaurant is a lot. You start out with a vision for something special, but that vision gradually gets overshadowed by the day-to-day of it all. Now, the thing that I love about Square is how it helps take some of that pressure off of you so you can actually enjoy why you started doing this business in the first place. When Square steps in, helping you save on food costs, get your menu seen by millions on Cash App, and get delivery apps pay out faster, it frees up time and mental energy in a place in this world where both are typically in short supply. Square, here for the magic that's not on the menu. Go to square.com/good stuff to get started. That's square.com/good stuff. Also, you can go to keglogistics.com/brewermag for more details on them as well. Well, this week it is a Cider Business Podcast. Recently, Portland Cider announced it would close its longtime taproom. That's a decision that on the surface might sound like a setback, but as you'll hear in this conversation, founder Jeff Parrish doesn't see it that way. He sees it as a strategic pivot. And we talk about how the company reached that decision, the emotions involved in letting go of a place that meant so much to customers and staff, and why leadership sometimes means making difficult choices before they're forced upon you. More importantly, Jeff shares what comes next with strengthening direct customer relationships through the core society to redefining what success looks like for a modern cider company. Plus, I ask him, what's the weirdest cider name you've actually ever used? And he tells us it's pretty fun. If you're a cidery owner navigating change in today's craft beverage landscape, this conversation is filled with practical insights about your resilience, adapting your business model, and recognizing that sometimes moving forward means letting go of what worked yesterday. Here's my chat with Jeff Parrish of Portland Cider on the Cider Business Podcast. This Brewer Mag podcast is sponsored by Keg Logistics. Now's the perfect time to review your keg management strategy. Whether you're seeking a truly flexible keg rental program or intrigued by the seamless distribution freedom of paper fill, Keg Logistics is ready to craft a personalized solution for you, ensuring you receive the kegs you need precisely when you need them. For details, visit keglogistics.com/brewermag. Keg Logistics, modern solutions for keg efficiency. And we welcome in Jeff Parrish, the founder of Portland Cider Company. Thanks so much for joining us here on the Cider Business Podcast today. Good to see you, Jeff.
You too. Happy to be here, John.
Well, obviously, I kind of like I said beforehand, we like to be able to talk to cideries once a month through the Brewer Podcast. And I actually had you guys pegged, a couple months ago. And as I was kind of looking for things to talk about, I saw your post on the website about you guys closing the restaurant and taproom operations. Can you kind of walk us through, the beginning of things? You guys had that little one at the beginning, when you guys started Portland Cider in 2013, and you've had different tap rooms and places for people to go. And it's kind of a new chapter for you guys, kind of give us the brief rundown of the last 13 years or so.
There's a lot of things I don't have answers for, but back in 2014, I take that back in 2013. I mean, our first tap room was at our original production facility. We started the business. We launched the brand in 2013 in 2,000 square feet in a mixed use area. And in the front, we had some office space that was about 800 square feet. And we opened our first little tap room there, literally had a kegerator underneath a bar. And, that little place was kind of the first of its kind in the area we were at, which is the suburb of Oregon City, south of Portland. And it was really the first of its kind. And we would do 10 grand a month, just pouring pints, no food whatsoever out of that tiny little space. That led to 2015 when we opened our pub on Hawthorne. And that was, at that time, the second cider-centric pub in the city after Bushwhackers, which was kind of like the original for the most part. And that place just killed it. They were both generating cash flow for our early business. And it was fantastic. And in 2016, we outgrew our little 2,000 square foot space and jumped to a 20,000 square foot building in another mixed industrial area. And we turned the office space in front, which was probably 3,000 square feet, into a tap room. And that did awesome. We were making more money out of those two retail locations than we were selling cider wholesale through our distribution network, which at that time was really just Oregon and Southwest Washington. And life was great. It was supporting the brand. It was, like I said, generating cash for the business, and then the pandemic happened. And, as we started to come out of the pandemic, we thought, man, when this is over, people are going to be so pent up. They're just going to want to get right back out, and things are just going to go right back to where they were. So we invested a whole ton of money and built out our Beaverton location, which opened in 2022. Something changed because after the pandemic, all three of our locations saw a 50% drop in traffic and sales out of them. And I don't know what changed. I think at Hawthorne, the neighborhood changed a little bit after the pandemic. In Beaverton, man, we had a beautiful space and a place we thought was great. Just couldn't get enough folks in. And then our restaurant and tap room there at Clackamas, we used to do 50 grand a month heating tots in a speed oven and pouring pints before the pandemic. Sure. The food was nothing to write home about. And we thought, man, you know what? We need to focus on making a quality restaurant, not just a tap room. So we invested $100,000 in a big commercial kitchen, found a chef who really elevated the food. Still couldn't get enough traffic in there to support it. So, ultimately what happened is we just, our lease was coming up in Hawthorne. And so we, walked away from that. Our Beaverton location, it lost money every single month. And so we basically negotiated an early termination to our lease there and walked away from that. And just focused on the restaurant at our location in Clackamas because it was in a building we were already paying rent on. And man, we tried everything to get enough traffic in there. We had amazing loyal customers, that were regulars. Just couldn't ever generate enough of them to support it. And the restaurants at that point in time represented probably 10% of our revenue, is all. But they were 90% of the managerial headaches that my wife, Linda, and I had to deal with.
Sure.
And, we view it though, as I think most brands do, you got to think of it as a marketing tool. And that's what our restaurants were. They were, and the Clackamas location stayed open because we viewed it, as an opportunity for folks to connect with the brand. And so even though it was losing money, that was a marketing expense. That's the way we looked at it. And, this year, after the first of the year, it just continued a downhill slide as far as traffic into it. I mean, it's an awful location where we're at. Our production facility is a great location to produce cider in, but to have a taproom and restaurant, it's kind of in a funny, unincorporated part of Clackamas County. That's kind of this no man's land between Happy Valley and Gladstone. And so it's a very deliberate act to go in there. And, it's neighborhood's a little sketchy at times too. And so it was just a continuously downhill slide at that retail location until finally, I think the straw that broke the camel's back for us was the fact that we had a chef who was just amazing. And he gave notice to go move to Colorado to be with family. And at that point in time, the location had its worst quarter ever. And we just decided, now we're done. That was it. It was just draining too many resources without providing enough benefit. And, the decision we ultimately came to is that, Portland Cider's become a regional brand. We're not just a local brand anymore. And there just wasn't enough benefit to justify losing the kind of money the location was losing. And that's when we ultimately made the really tough decision to shut it down.
And you kind of touched on a lot of the things I was going to ask, especially like when you have to have a discussion about seriously evaluating the future of somewhere. Like it was a lot of it just the P&L sheet was upside down for you and you just saw that, quickly. And obviously there's an emotional attachment along with the financial. You want to be able to see this to continue to succeed and survive. Do you feel like you guys waited too long, pulled the plug, at the right time? Like, what is your initial thought process over looking at this last year or so?
We've asked our question. I mean, we've asked ourselves every month, we would ask ourselves, man, is it worth keeping this thing running?
Yeah.
We've done that. We've asked that question every month for 2 years, and it really did come down. I mean, the first quarter of this year was a difficult quarter for the business for a number of reasons, not just our restaurant. And so that kind of amplified the momentum that finally led us to do it, and it's unfortunate. I mean, we love the space. I mean, you walk in and it's the kind of warm, inviting thing that reflects our personalities, the culture of the business, it's still there. I mean, we haven't disassembled the damn thing. We just shut the doors, but no, it was, I mean, this was just a long time coming. And as I said, the catalyst was a key individual, was going to be leaving. And it would have been really big shoes to fill. Mm-hmm. And that was ultimately why we decided, this is now, the time is now. And we had that conversation with, we've got an advisory board, have had for over 10 years, of professionals in both the beverage and finance and manufacturing industries. And, this is a conversation we'd had with them for months and months. Mm-hmm. And it was finally time.
And like you said, this sometimes when I've talked to people about things like this or hear about things like this, it's the end of the brand. They're closing the tap room and closing the brand. You guys aren't doing that. You actually have an entire another leg that you have founded yourselves on, and like you said, become a more regionalized cider company. How much does the company change going forward right now?
Well, I mean, for us, the complexity's been reduced dramatically.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, half of our headcount was in that restaurant. So for us, it's been liberating because it allows us to focus our attention on what we do best, and that's making what we believe is the highest quality cider in the industry, and promoting that, across Oregon, Washington, Idaho, for the most part. So I mean, that's really the only change. It's just allowed Linda and I to be more focused on what we do and less distracted by the headaches and drama that goes with running a restaurant.
What was the consumer fallout like from the time you guys announced till you guys closed the doors, and even to now? Like, have you seen positive, negative, people wondering why? I mean, like, they're never going to get the full story. I know, you ask any consumer, they always think they know the answer. And there's always it's a fluid type of answer. Lots of things have led to this. How are you guys kind of approaching that when people in the area that are used to being a part of your cidery first heard this, and going forward, and what you've kind of heard from the area?
Well, we announced this about a week and a half or so before. So we wanted to do that because we wanted to give those loyal customers an opportunity to come in one last time. Mm-hmm. And they did. I mean, holy crap. I mean, if we had the kind of business we had our last week on a regular basis, it wouldn't be closing,
right.
No, I think, the cider consumer, the cider fans, and beer fans for that matter too, I think in the Portland metropolitan area understand the difficulty in the business,
Mm-hmm.
And certainly we weren't the first location to close a retail place. But as we've always tried to be inside Portland Cider, we tried to be as transparent as possible in our messaging outside. And I think without exception, I mean, the response has been, understood. I mean, and there's disappointment. Mm-hmm. I mean, funny thing today is 4 or 5 days a week, I go for a run at Clackamas Community College, and you see a lot of familiar faces every morning out there. And there's a retired couple that I'd see on a regular basis. And today I stopped, said hi, and introduced myself. And the fella goes, "You're with Portland Cider, aren't you?" And I said, yeah, I am. "Man, we loved your restaurant, and we're sorry you had to close it." Just this morning that happened, and I explained why. And they're like, "Yeah, we understand." And that's really what kind of happened. And so, for us, like I said, it allows us to focus our resources within the community on the activities that I want to say matter to others, not more than just us.
Sure.
Whether it be local sponsorships, whether it be, supporting various charitable causes. Just it gives us the chance to turn our focus, on that type of community involvement.
Sure. Yeah, and it does. It when it came to, like you said, half the staff was a part of the restaurant, but has there been absorption for some of those employees that that can work on the other sides, and like you said, become more events based or going out and being a part of the community? How did you guys kind of tell the staff and work your way through these last 6 weeks or so? This Brewer Mag podcast is sponsored by Keg Logistics. Now's the perfect time to review your keg management strategy. Whether you're seeking a truly flexible keg rental program or intrigued by the seamless distribution freedom of paper fill, Keg Logistics is ready to craft a personalized solution for you, ensuring you receive the kegs you need precisely when you need them. For details, visit keglogistics.com/brewermag. Keg Logistics, modern solutions for keg efficiency. Running a restaurant is a lot. You start out with a vision for something special, but that vision gradually gets overshadowed by the day-to-day of it all. Now, the thing that I love about Square is how it helps take some of that pressure off of you so you can actually enjoy why you started in the first place. When Square steps in, helping you save on food costs, get your menu seen by millions on Cash App, and get delivery app payouts faster, it frees up time and mental energy in a world where both are typically in short supply. Square, here for the magic that's not on the menu. Go to square.com/good stuff to get started. That's square.com/good stuff.
Sure. Well, I mean, it was difficult because a number of the staff had been with us for a while. I mean, people we really liked, enjoyed, created a wonderful experience for our customers. I mean, we gave them 2 weeks notice to, and offered retention bonuses as well, an appreciation for them sticking around through this. A couple of them are doing some just very part-time brand ambassador work for us.
Mm-hmm.
And a couple of them, this was just kind of a part-time job they did because it was fun. They had full-time work elsewhere. And because the hours that the restaurant was open, it wasn't open for lunch. It was just, it was open from 2 through dinner time, 5 days a week. But then there were other folks who, had to find, new positions, and we supported them the best we could with, with our networking and as well as with, just references. So, there really wasn't an opportunity to absorb them elsewhere. I mean, we're surprisingly a pretty small company. Yeah. I think smaller than most people think. I mean, we're, I think the latest grocery data had us at 13th in the country as far as the size of cidery we are. But I mean, we've got 6 people that work in that building. Yeah. We get a lot done. Yeah. So there really wasn't an opportunity to do that. But, like all our longtime employees, I mean, they've become close friends, almost even family to Linda and I, and we continue to stay in touch with them.
Sure. How do you balance that, the feeling of disappointment, but you still have a company to run. You still have to be positive and optimistic towards, what the next chapter of Portland Cider is. How much has that been a difficult balance lately?
Well, it really hasn't been difficult. I mean, it's been an evolution, and I think that's the way the rest of our staff looks at it. You know what? I mean, we are a regional brand, and this was an important step to take, in the evolution of the company,
Gotcha.
It doesn't mean we stop all events at all. I mean, as we said in our press release, on the 11th of July, we're going to host the 5K run through the brewery running series that we do every year. We're going to host there, again. Yeah. This fall, we will likely have some type of on-site event, where we'll open the doors and people can come in and, enjoy the cider on site, and we'll do something fun, or whether it be the wassail party that we have had almost every Christmas time, So excellent. Those won't end.
Mm-hmm. Well, one of the things that, obviously stands out, even with Taproom and restaurant closing, is that you guys do have Core Society. It seems that, and I think I was sitting at CiderCon listening to a conversation about cider clubs, and it was just an informal poll. Everyone raise your hand if you have one, don't if you don't. And less than half of the cideries in attendance had cider clubs, which, when compared to a wine club, you see such a high number of wineries having wine clubs, having memberships, having that type of thing. Do you feel that you guys can find growth and kind of create a whole new community with what Core Society can be?
Core Society is an opportunity for, I want to say, fans who do not live within our distribution network to be able to connect to, to get our cider. We do have a number of cider club members who are within our distribution network footprint. But that's the primary driver. It's different for a cidery than it is for a winery, at least for our cidery. Wineries with clubs is a huge revenue driver for them, because the margins on their bottles are pretty significant. For us, the cider club really, again, much like the restaurant was, it falls under our marketing, and it's a way of, like I said, connecting to folks who, may not be able to get into the grocery store or live outside it. It's a matter of supporting that fan base, even when we're not readily available. It certainly isn't a revenue driver at all. For the simple reason that, it's expensive to ship liquid in a box,
Right.
And so they're paying a premium for the cider, just to get it to their doorstep, and unlike, wine, ciders needs to be affordable like beer. And so, so the Core Society, as we have branded it now, is a way of connecting to fans no matter where they might be. And that's really the driver. Because, we would like to think that we're going to be able to grow our footprint. And as we do, maybe we'll be growing it into an area where we've already got a fan base because of the club.
Absolutely.
So, that's really the focus of it, and why we've kind of devoted some more energy into that.
I think, and the other thing is being at CiderCon and listening to, I think Bart Watson from the BA was there talking about the struggles that craft beers had, and cider is actually on the upswing for some brands, and, the positivity that can come from that. Obviously, you talk about a taproom closure, you're thinking of decline, but what do you see as the actual future of Portland cider for you guys?
Well, it's interesting. We are continue to be one of the fastest growing brands within the Northwest. We struggled for years in Washington with a distribution network that just didn't believe in the brand. And a year ago, we completely changed that network. And now we have partners that do believe in the brand, and we are the fastest growing brand in Washington. And in the Northwest as a whole, we're near the top. And so for us, it's about, continuing to drive that growth into those territories that, we just haven't been impactful in, and doing it by doing what we've always done, which is just make the highest quality cider we possibly can.
How about opportunities that weren't possible when you had so many resources allocated to the restaurant? How do you see yourself focusing on kind of a new operating system or new ways to be able to find consumers? And, we kind of delved into this too with just local events, but like when it does come to looking at new areas, maybe you see people in Core Society that are just outside of the realm of where you guys are and kind of build towards things like that. Do you see that as the positive coming out of this, is that you don't feel so stretched?
Well, yeah, every dollar that's not being lost to a retail location gets invested in a marketing effort or a sales effort, so it gives us the resources to maybe do sponsorships outside of our home territory. Maybe we're going to hire, we may ultimately end up hiring another salesperson in an outside territory, or we may be able to participate in other festivals or events that we couldn't do because, resources were being taken away by, by an effort that just, wasn't making money. So that's really the biggest difference. That's what happened. Again, it's all about focusing on what's most important. And for us, it's making cider, and growing the brand within our footprint.
Well, Jeff, I appreciate you taking the time to, talk about something that I think a lot of people would see as a tough time to talk about, a business, and come and talk to us about it. So I appreciate you doing that and kind of sharing the raw look at it, because it's still so new for you guys. But yeah, thanks for that. And I appreciate it.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Like I said, it's business decisions like that aren't always a negative or the death bell. I know it often has been for some brands, but that's not the case for us. It was all part of a transition, in the growth of the business.
Sure. But like I said, I do like to kind of finish things on a fun and leave you with a smile note. So I always like to ask just 3 completely goofy questions, a little bit about you, a little bit about thoughts of other things. So
Sure.
the first one, let's say, what would be the weirdest cider name that you never actually got to use, or you secretly would love to name something, but it just doesn't work for Portland cider?
Well, all right. Well, there's a cider name we did use actually way back when. It never left the building. It was only on a tap list, and we actually made a T-shirt out of it, which I still have a copy of the T-shirt. And it was sort of a spin on an English cider that we found a tankard of, and we called it the Crooked Cock Scrumpy. and we had a T-shirt with a chicken that was kind of all bent.
Yeah.
And it was a spin because there was, my wife's from England, and we collect sort of old cider artifacts from the West Country, and we have a little tankard, and on it, it was from a cidery that made what they called their cripple cock scrumpy, and it showed a rooster with a cane in its hand, and so that was one that never got out of the building.
Gotcha. What's the dumbest thing you were absolutely convinced of was true as a kid?
Oh my goodness. I remember I had an uncle tell me when I was probably 5 or 6 that every night the moon got stored in a warehouse in town. It's like, what happens to the moon? And well, they take it down, they put it in a warehouse. And I think that stuck with me till I was about 8.
Did you ever use it on another kid just for fun?
No, not that particular one, but all of my kids have got really finely tuned bullshit detectors, because of me. So I did plenty of other things that,
Yeah. We unfortunately taught our son sarcasm way too early in life, and we paid the price from like ages 8 till he's 13 now. And just to you can't get a straight answer out of him. It's always the sarcastic answer, like, okay, no, give us the actual answer. Parenthood. All right, last one. You suddenly have to give a TED talk on something that's completely unrelated to cider. What topic can you talk about, and you're weirdly prepared to talk about it right now?
Man, I'm not qualified to really talk about it, but I would do it anyway. About just trying to stay healthy as a middle-aged dude.
We all
that would be my TED talk, man. And I'm sure I'd be opposite of the science on half of it, but nonetheless, that would be it.
Well, awesome. Well, appreciate getting to know a little bit about you, ending off with some fun and talking business as well. Jeff, thanks for talking with us today.
You bet, John, anytime.
This Brewer Mag podcast is sponsored by Keg Logistics. Now's the perfect time to review your keg management strategy. Whether you're seeking a truly flexible keg rental program or intrigued by the seamless distribution freedom of paper fill, Keg Logistics is ready to craft a personalized solution for you, ensuring you receive the kegs you need precisely when you need them. For details, visit keglogistics.com/brewermag. Keg Logistics, modern solutions for keg efficiency.